Now, guys, this is a clear contradiction because, first of all,
It's like a sphere, maybe. I don't know, an asteroid, a celestial body.
I guess you could put it like that to them. I mean, could God manifest himself as a toilet? How come then God can come in the form as a beardless young man?
But if you're affirming it, and Allah actually manifested as a beardless young man in a dream, then you actually have to say something interesting here.
First of all, we want to turn to Hadith al-Nuzūl. This is Ibn Taymiyyah. Nothing is conceivable existing in the observable realm except as a body, except as a form. So how Allah, he comes down into the existing and observable realm? But what body does Allah take on? If we go to this hadith, and this hadith scholar actually is Ibn Taymiyyah. So authentic according to summary of hadith scholars, what does it say? That the messenger of God, Muhammad, saw his Lord in the form of a beardless young man. With what? With abundant curly hair in a garden, that should say, because it wouldn't make sense if he was abundant with a curly garden. Automatic rebuttal from any Muslim you bring this to. In the Arabic, it also says that he sees this in a dream. But this is not in the hadith actually, this is just in the context. So the Muslim will say that, Muhammad, he didn't really see his Lord. His Lord, what did he do? He just showed himself as a beardless young man to Muhammad in a dream. Now, you can ask this question back straight away. So did Muhammad see Allah like he says, or is he lying? And if so, if not, did Allah deceive him? The Muslim says, he didn't see Allah. Well, actually, Muhammad, he's claiming he saw him in the form of something. And if then the Muslim says, no, he didn't, Allah must be deceiving and lying to him. So either way, they are trapped.
It's actually very important that Islam, to an extent, confirms Trinitarian theology of the Logos, or Jesus as the hypostasis. So I want to talk about this. As my friend PrinceOfWelsh said, if they treat this something that Muhammad saw, that he actually saw God, he would see a form of a man, then by extension, you would have to claim that Allah is lying if you're denying it. But if you're affirming it, and Allah actually manifested as a beardless young man in a dream, then you actually have to say something interesting here. So, okay, take a look at it like this. God cannot manifest as something that would be misaligned with his nature, right? You'd agree with this also. God wouldn't manifest as some sort of like a rock or something like that, because that doesn't represent what God is. That would be some sort of lying. So if Allah is not deceiving anybody, yet he is manifesting as a man, then to an extension, you have to say that there's something about the divine essence that would allow Allah to manifest as a human form. Now, what is that? Well, if you are familiar with Christian theology, how can God manifest as in a human form? He can take on a human nature, like the Logos. It says in the book of John that the Logos takes on a human form, incarnated. But what would allow such incarnation? Well, that would be the hypostatic union, or the hypostasis of Jesus. So they have to actually say that Allah has to have some sort of hypostatic capability, or have this hypostasis in the divine essence that would allow God to honestly manifest as a human without deceiving anybody. Because in Christian theology, as we know, God can manifest as a human being without lying to us, like, oh, he can't actually be a man, for instance. Why can he do that honestly? It's because he has the hypostasis, which allows him to be so, right? So in fact, Muslims have to concede the hypostatic union and incarnation for Allah to be possible. That means Allah can manifest as a human being. He cannot deceive. No, all right? Because Allah is regarded as al-Haq. So he cannot deceive people. So whatever so if he manifests as a human being, then he can. And how can he? Because there is a hypostasis, which would be something similar to the Logos It's mentioned in John and Christian theology.
I thought it was beautifully put with the rock as well. Like, he cannot lie and he cannot be something that he couldn't be within the form. I mean, like, Muslims, maybe they would say something like the toilet. Like, God couldn't manifest in the form of a toilet or something like that, because they're obsessed with things like toilet and sex and stuff. So, I mean, I guess you could put it like that to them. I mean, could God manifest himself as a toilet? And if they say no, then you could say, well, how come then God can come in the form as a beardless young man? But I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
like the
you
same way
need to
said.
have some sort of thing in the divine essence in order for you to do that.
We can get them trapped as well in Ṣaḥīḥ Muslim Bi-Sharḥ an-Nawawī, volume 3, page number 4. We're giving all the references, guys. This is the book here. Now, this is another dilemma, because there is only one person who denies this story, and this is the story that all the Muslims will quote to you. They will say, well, Aisha said, if anybody says that Muhammad saw their Lord, they are lying. Okay, that's the quote that they will give to you. Now, let's read what actually happened. So, the early generations and later ones differed about whether Muhammad saw his Lord, whether he saw him. Okay, now Aisha denies it, as it is reported here in Ṣaḥīḥ Muslim. Okay, this is the well-known view of Ibn Masud, and a group of Hadith scholars and theologians held this opinion. Held what opinion? It was narrated from Ibn Abbas that he saw him with his own eye. And the same from who? From Abu Dar and Ka'b. From who else? From Al-Hasan. From who else? Ibn Masud and Abu Huraira. Who else? Ahmad ibn Hanbal. Who else? Abu al-Hasan al-Ashari. Do you see, guys? So look at the dilemma that they're going to cause because of the Quran. Aisha says that it didn't happen. Who do you have saying that it did happen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 companions say that it happened, and one girl says it didn't happen. Now, why do I stress girl? It's very important to know that in the Quran, in chapter 2, verse 282, that a man and a woman's testimony are very different. What happens to a woman's testimony? 2 women's is the equivalent to 1 man's. So when Aisha says something, but 8 men say something else, Quran says her opinion is disregarded. Why? Because she's a woman. Do you see the trap that they put themselves in? So now we will go to why actually Muhammad, he says that women, they have to have two women for the testimony of 1 man. Why? Because according to Sahih al-Bukhari, women are deficient in intelligence and religion.
So there's a thing in the Quran that I myself have found very interesting, and how Muslims actually miss this a lot, is how the verses in, I believe it's Surah al-Fasilat, right? That's what the surah is.
41.
It talks about, so if we read from the verse above, it says, he placed on the earth firm mountains, standing, showered in his blessings upon it, and ordained all its means of sustenance, totaling 4 days exactly, for all who ask. And then it says, then he turned towards the heaven when it was still like smoke. So what I want to say about this is, from the basic reading of the text, as a lot of Ibn Taymiyyah followers, a lot of these Sunnis say, it sounds a lot like God has some sort of rotational motion. Well, in order for you to face something or to turn towards something, you must have some sort of dimensions. For instance, like the face of a triangle must turn to a specific direction to face the object, right? So here it sounds a lot like Allah is an object in space that is rotating towards the smoke. And then he is, as later the chapter would say, he formed the heavens. Well, technically, there's a couple of Muslim groups, such as like the Ash'ari and the Maturidiyya, that will say that it's a metaphor. No, we cannot say that God has dimensions and he has some sort of internal thermodynamic combustion which would allow him to turn in space towards something. No. He must be eternal. He doesn't have a place, so he doesn't have dimensions. So they would possibly interpret this verse as he specified towards the heavens and the earth. But I mean, it doesn't sound like metaphorization. It sounds like reinstating the same statement. But you cannot possibly say that this refers to some sort of eternal point of view, that God is eternal, because it clearly mentions the word when. When is obviously a word that in regards to temporality. So for instance, when I say, I turned towards the table when the table was in front of me,
Yep.
right? That it does imply some sort of temporality. That's what we use as human beings. It sounds a lot here like God is literally rotating, guys. It's like a sphere, maybe. I don't know, an asteroid, a celestial body. Sounds a lot like it.
He mentioned this as well. This is not the only part in the Quran that says this, because in chapter 2, verse number 29, we went through it yesterday, but al-Ṭabarī, he says the same thing, right? And he doesn't seem like it's turning as, I mean, he does a lot of turning for God, but he seems to make it clear that God, he turns to it.
No?
So he's fashioning it to 7 after he turned to it. And after, I mean, it implies he's doing something within time, space, and matter as well, right?
Sounds like it. I actually interacted with an Ashari on a statement, and he told me it refers from our perspective. I don't know how that's even like a that sounds like an ad hoc explanation.
If he says that it's from our perspective, the Quran is meant to be the eternal word of God, and that would make, for the Quran to make sense, it would mean that Allah is dependent on creation existing and reading it.
Oh, interesting.
Does that cook? I mean, to me
It
that
does.
cooks. So if somebody was
And I also want to emphasize, go back on the verse again. I want to emphasize something else also. They would try to frame it as, how do I say it? Like he shifted his focus. But even like the language that I'm using, as you can tell, shifting focus implies as if God is not omniscient and eternal, once again. Because if we're saying, like from the classical perspective, what God is, that he is omnipresent, omniscient, eternal, immutable, he needs to have his attention on all things throughout all time. So there's no some sort of shifting his attention from one object to another. God is present to all objects, and God knows all objects eternally, not in sequence, not some sort of shift of focus. It's eternally known and eternally focused, right? I think Welsh would agree with me on this, definitely.
Yep.
But it sounds like the Quran is saying that God is an object in space that rotates. And another thing, an object that rotates itself must be something like, for instance, I have a soul and I have a body. My soul acts upon my body to, for instance, move my arm. So here they would have to say that God has some sort of where, like God is like the soul-like thing, and he resides within a larger body, and he could rotate it. So he could shift focus of the body, like the surface from where he would see, and he would shift it towards an object. It sounds a lot like a created idol, a creature, than the ultimate omnipresent God.
Yeah, and you can get into that as well, like with how Allah is described throughout Hadith and Quran itself, with his different, anthropomorphic features, with his hands, with his shin, everything. So
they do say that, especially the athletes do say that the two hands and some of these anthropomorphic attributes are essential to what he is.
well, I mean, also
How interesting.
some people, they say that, like his attributes, like his feet, his foot, or his shin, aren't real. But to me, it doesn't make sense, because he literally says that he will like raise his shin up and everyone will worship it, and he will put his foot into hellfire to close it. Sometimes I saw Korah, she said, well, my God, he is not everywhere because he's not in hell. But her God, he is actually in hell because his foot is in hell. And I mean, I guess that would be a part of him. which is another problem, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're saying that God's foot is in hell, but he's not in hell, there's definitely some sort of division of parts going on.
But then you have to completely disregard that hadith. I'm guessing that's what she does. She just says that.
But I do think that, yeah, but I do think that this is actually like the most lethal argument, because the Quran clearly says that God is turning. It clearly mentions when, which implies being temporal. It clearly mentions that God is this temporal thing in the sky that moves. And this is simply the confirmation that I did, just in case, like any sort of giving like the shadow of the doubt. If I suppose said that the istawa, or like the turning, would be eternal, some sort of like mean like a timeless decree, it wouldn't make any sense, because like the ilah in Arabic, or like to be toward an object, is spatial. It's always used in a spatial sense. It wouldn't make any sense to say that God eternally, when, during the time of, or something like that. It doesn't make any sense. You know, it's just making a contradiction. Is your God in time, or is he not in time? That's not gonna work. But that's for like Asharis and Maturidis. The Salafiyya or the Athariya, they have to take the text literally, that God literally turned towards the heavens. Well, I guess he did rotate, huh? Interesting.
And this word ilah, I mean, you use it about yourself. Like, I mean, in context, like, I want to go to the shop, you're going to something, right? Like in Arabic, you can say أنا بدي أروح إلى المحل. I want to go to the shop. You're going to something, towards something. So if you're giving like this word, I mean, exactly as you said, I mean, you're making him temporal, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I don't think Muslims can escape this one.
No,
Do you think?
I don't think so either.